Welcome to RegTalks, a podcast dedicated to the ever-evolving world of RegTech and financial regulations. My name is Claus Christensen, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Know Your Customer. We are an award-winning RegTech provider specialized in digital onboarding, KYC, and anti-money laundering solutions. Today, it is my pleasure to welcome Karen Contet as my guest. Karen is the co-founder and CEO of AngelHub, which is the first SFC licensed startup investment platform. She's also co-founder of WHub, the startup community and power connector in Asia, and a founding board member of the FinTech Association of Hong Kong that we also take part in. Karen, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Klaus.
In our introduction, we have given a bit of an overview of your background. Would you mind exploring in a bit more detail, why did you start AngelHub? Was there a gap in the market that you identified and wanted to address?
Thank you very much for the question. So first, we established WHub, which became the biggest startup community here in Hong Kong and power connector in Asia. And we were providing all the resources startup needed to grow. And the one part that we were not touching was investment into startups. But when you start to be deeply immersed into the startup ecosystem, there is also one thing that you realize is that it's definitely lacking capital power, especially into like pre-Series A, Series A type of companies, right? I would say just at the edge of like institutional money. So that's why we decided to build AngelHub, which is the first SFC regulated startup investment platform. So first we needed to get the license from our regulator, which took about like 18 months. And then after we were able to launch. And really what we wanted to do was, based on our knowledge of the tech community, to be able to provide the startups that we believe has the maximum potential for high net worth individual to invest into these companies. So to democratize startup investments and not to make it only available for VC or just a few angel investors that are doing it for full time. So how to make these companies that are not too much like well known yet to everybody to be part of their journey.
Hong Kong has traditionally been a place for trade and for property, and Asian investors would also be skewed towards those topics. Those would be topics dear to their heart. How did you convince investors, or is there a change in general in the investment community in Asia and in Hong Kong specifically that opens them up to tech?
I definitely think so. It's true that if you're comparing Asia to Europe or the US, which are both a much more mature market in terms of startup investment, Asia came late into the play. 5 years ago, we had no unicorns in Hong Kong, just a few in Asia as well. So people didn't know much about tech and all its opportunities, I would say. But I would say from like all the work that has been done in order to learn more about the tech scene, all the conference that happen in the region, we see more and more appetite, and also because people realize that Hong Kong was a fast-paced growing tech environment, giving a lot of opportunities for tech companies to develop and to become like unicorns, and therefore generating a lot of revenue for early stage investors. So we do see more and more interest from individuals and family offices to invest into tech companies in Asia. Definitely.
AngelHub itself invested a lot into their online tech platform. It is not just an investment vehicle. It's not just people behind that. There's a lot of tech in AngelHub. What was your experience moving from an investment as a very personal thing to a tech platform?
It has been very complicated because Hong Kong sometimes can be very slow in terms of regulation and technology adoption, I would say, from a regulatory point of view. So it's true that you want to be a platform, right? So you need to be able to digitally onboard your customers. It sounds really stupid, but you need to be able, without having to meet them face to face. Otherwise, I mean, how can you onboard thousands of customers, right? If you need to meet each and every one of them. So definitely, this part has been quite challenging. But it's definitely at the center of what we do, right? Digitization from like the investor onboarding point of view, being able to do all the KYC AML, in a very fast, strong, and efficient way with a minimum team, right, which is really key. And on the other side is, okay, how do you also onboard startups? How do you actually digitalize the process, even for them to make it easier for their fundraising journey in general? So technology is really a key part of what we do in order to make the whole process efficient. I mean, over the past year, we have assessed about 1,300 companies. Out of them, so we have met about 150 companies. So it's really, how can you do this with such a small team? You need to use technology for it. No other choice.
Last time we saw each other in person, I think it was late last year at a absolutely jam-packed WHub event at the top level of, I think, Spaces in Hong Kong. A lot has happened since. I remember pushing through throngs of people to get to the good stuff, the very nice wine there in the end after the event was through. And a lot has changed. From your experience over the last few months, has COVID had an impact on accelerating or delaying digital transformation trends in the financial services? And if so as well, have investors started reacting to this from your point of view?
Definitely, I would say that COVID had a major impact in terms of accelerating digital transformation trends. And actually speaking, it's not actually COVID which has accelerated the digital transformation, but it's more the measures that have been taken by the government. The fact that people have been stuck, home without access to branches, wanted to avoid crowded places. The last survivor that didn't want to use their phone in order to check their financial services and to have different type of services now actually had to do it. And I saw actually a report about COVID and financial and fintech actually adoption. And I think you can see a growth of like 50% minimum during COVID in terms of usage, in terms of download of apps. It's quite straightforward. It's really like an echelon type of growth. So we definitely see it. But it's true that it's not only in terms of financial services. I think we see an impact in terms of digitalization in edutech as well, with all of our kids having to do homeschooling. Now they're like expert in terms of Zoom, Google Hangout, and all this type of things. It's just amazing. Actually, I noticed that my kids downloaded Zoom without even asking me, and now they are comparing notes on it. So it's very funny, and all these type of games that they are doing to learn online. I think gaming also is huge, especially desktop, because now it seems like every day is a weekend in terms of gaming, because people spend their day like really in front of their computer without being able to go away. And the last really trend that we see is food tech. I think people were more like concerned about like their health and how they can actually save the planet. So I think indeed it has really accelerated a lot of transformation that I think without COVID and especially lockdown would have been really slower for sure.
I absolutely agree. This is what we have been seeing in our company as well. A lot of projects have been pushed forward, and the pressure from the customers of our clients is obviously relentless to get their act together and make all services available online and so on. I think you should see some uptick as well in the use of the AngelHub platform, because if you're stuck at home, this is one thing you can do as an entrepreneur. You can go up and list your company on AngelHub and collect funds and get going. And as an investor, this is one of the few things you can do fully remotely without going to a bank branch or anything, and you can invest in fantastic companies there. So you are, of course, a native of beautiful France and an ambassador for French fintech as well as Hong Kong. But you have been based in Hong Kong for a long time, which gives you a very unique perspective on the world of fintech. From your point of view, what do you think the most exciting things in RegTech are happening currently?
We saw over the last few years, everything in terms of KYC AML was really the first part where you can see a really strong trend. And now that banks and other financial institutions, but not only, are adopting, because this is really key. This is where you can actually save cost, right? How can you speed up compliance and really simplify like the whole framework? So I think that was the first part. And then I think, it comes into data privacy, AI fraud detection as well, and everything that is more like data driven, I would say. Because now that everything is done online, there are different ways to detect fraud, and AI can be one thing of it, because you have access to all the behavior of your customer directly on their phone, right? That's what WeLab, for example, is doing. So I think you still have a lot of things that come into play. And of course, as I was saying, data privacy is definitely one part where RegTech could play a huge role. And once you're able really to crack this part as well, it will help a lot of startups, to grow from different jurisdictions in a really easy way. So I think because one barrier usually can really be solved by RegTech companies. So I know it doesn't really look sexy, RegTech usually, but come on, let's face it, it's the one thing that can really help you to scale and to grow from one jurisdiction to another. So it's actually key for every type of business.
I would completely disagree anyway by now. When I started KYC 5 years ago, initially I also thought, oh, this might be a bit dry, but it isn't actually. The world of regulation is ultimately is about very interesting topics. It is about the prevention of money laundering. It is of prevention of crime and terrorism. And if you go down to that level, it's ultimately a force for good, enabling regulators to put out strong regulations using technology and preventing bad things from happening. And as humans, we always see ourselves as a bit insulated from the things that happen there through money laundering and the abuse there of the system. But we have this responsibility, and I think that is fantastic that we, as RegTechs, can play our role to make a better world, really. So I think it's sexy. By now I do.
I think so too, but it's only when you know the topics that you think it's sexy.
That's right. It is a bit of an acquired taste, or it's something where you have to dig a little deeper. But as all human pursuits are, the ones where you have to work a bit harder, they're the most interesting in the end. All right, we have spoken a lot about investment, RegTech, and as well as innovation from the financial institutions' point of view. Now, if you look at the third component, the third player in the space, that would be the regulators. In Hong Kong, we are both unlucky and lucky. We're lucky that the HKMA has started really to actively promote RegTech for a good while now, with a whole series of events and appointments there. So there is movement there. But on a general level, what are some of the steps that regulators can take to promote and encourage RegTech more?
Honestly, I wish that all regulators could be in a room together and agree on a common framework. I think that's my dream, right? Because first of all, even usually in one country, you can have different type of regulations depending on your business. So that's one thing, as we have seen sometimes in Hong Kong. But then the thing is that now that the world is really global, right, you need to be able to scale fast. And for this, you need to have a common regulatory framework across the different countries so that you can scale, right? And I think, this can only be enabled by two factors. First, which is often the case for everything, which is communication across different regulators. So that's one thing that is key. And the second one is definitely technology. And that's the way we can make this common across different jurisdiction and make the word access better from everywhere.
I wonder what organization could play that role in connecting those regulators, really.
And when you think about Europe, it's kind of the first place where all these countries should have a common regulation, right? I think that was the dream initially, in order to facilitate business across all these countries. And from there, how do you expand for this between like the bridge to the US and then to Asia? So unfortunately, I really don't have the answers. I think all the tech conference can play a big role because actually you see a lot of regulators at all these tech conference. And the truth is that they all know each other. They all speak to each other. And most of regulators, honestly, are really tech savvy as well. That's really, I think, what we managed to notice also. So I think it's going into the right direction.
Well, we in our space as KYC, we are lucky in that there is actually an organization that is the source of most of the world's anti-money laundering regulations, and that would be the FATF. Their recommendations are the basis for everything, but still, there is no common force at the moment, and there's various initiatives, but they don't quite connect. I wonder if it is really politics that's holding us back. Is it also cultural, the background? How do we view privacy versus the state, and privacy versus big organizations, all that? Now, we have one final question that I ask all my guests. And if you woke up tomorrow and you had a magic wand and you would be the global financial regulator, maybe the global SFC, what would be the first thing you would change with your experience adhering to those regulations?
Oh my God, I would make it so much clearer for everybody. Oh my God, in terms that I can actually read and understand like proper English without needing a lawyer in order to understand what I'm reading. So maybe that would be like the first thing. I think the second thing would be really to make a common regulation across all jurisdiction. I think that I really wish for that. And then to enable it to be able to digitalize the whole process, whether it's really in terms of reporting, in terms of onboarding, in terms of communication as well. I'm sure that nowadays there is nothing that is preventing us from making it, faster and more efficient with less paper and less face-to-face meetings. So I think that that's really what I would like to do. Because I'm sure that, at the end, regulators are here to protect the customer, right? That's what they want to do. So I'm sure that they all have the same goal at heart. So I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be the same everywhere.
I very much agree. Thank you so much, Karen. I recently read the FATF recommendations as a document, and the recommendations are actually only about 30 pages, but there's 130 pages of guidance material apart from, in addition to the 30 pages. I think there is also, agreeing to the second part of what you said, there's a giant opportunity for regulators to take technology more into account when writing the regulations, instead of just writing regulations for a paper process and tagging on a part that says, well, normally would do paper, but if you do technology, you can do it like this. They should concentrate on technology and reverse the whole thing. And then that would move regulations forward and make it a lot easier for both financial institutions and their customers. Well, that has been very nice. Thank you so much, Karen, for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you also for your role in Hong Kong and in the whole community. For us, this has been major when we entered into Hong Kong like 3 years ago, and I think it will be going forward for so many more companies. So thank you for that role.
Thank you very much. And as I said, we want to invest into the companies that we believe has the most potential. So here it is.
Thank you for listening to this episode of RegTalks. My name is Claus Christensen, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of award-winning RegTech provider Know Your Customer. If you liked the episode, please subscribe to the whole series and leave us a review. And if you'd like to connect with us, suggest a guest or a topic for an upcoming episode, please send us a message at info@knowyourcustomer.com or visit knowyourcustomer.com/RegTalks.